Oh, hi everyone. Warren Hayes once again, back with another AEW Dynamite review. Hope you're doing very well today. We're recording this on January 12, 2023. We're going to be recapping last night's Dynamite. But before we do, make sure that you like this video and that you subscribe to this channel. Because that way, you'll never miss, ever, another AEW Dynamite review from my mouth ever again. But then on top of that, you'll also get the the full Mr. Warren Hayes show experience when I record it live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. Now, this was all for YouTube people if you're watching this right now, but if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, hey, you know what? A 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, a 5-star rating on Spotify. Those things are great. Help out a great deal, help grow the podcast, and just, gives me a nice squishy feeling inside. These are all things that we want. I want squishy feelings inside. It might be just me too, but look, we're going to be talking about Dynamite right now. The January 11 edition. I guess it's we have to lean in with the fact that Mercedes Moné didn't show up despite the fact that she was not advertised. This is the world we live in 2023, where wrestling fans can get angry at the idea of someone not showing up to a show where they were not advertised to be on, right? That's I've seen tons of comparisons to this, right? Where it's like Sasha's not, but Mercedes Moné, not showing up. If it was WWE doing this, it's like, look, WWE has a history of pulling bait and switches like this. They did it just recently. They did it last year at SummerSlam, where right up until the very last minute they were announcing that Sasha Banks was going to be at the show. And what happened? Well, yeah, pretty sure y'all remember what happened there. Don't you? Becky Lynch coming in and just squashing Bianca, right? That's a thing that absolutely, and that's false advertising. But that ain't it. It was conjecture and speculation, Now, the situation here isn't as cut and dry as saying, the fans work themselves, right? I don't think. I do think AEW has a part of responsibility in what happened, right? Because look, they do the match announcement for the forum show, for the Kia Forum show, LA Forum Kia show, Forum of LA Kia show. They do the announcement like a full month before the show happens, right? So out the gate, if you're, I can't blame anyone, and I can't blame anyone for having their, having your spidey senses starting to tingle, where you're like, wait a minute, why are they starting to promote this match, a tag team match in the women's division, so early ahead of time? There's no tag titles, there's nothing really at stake. It's just like Saraya's pissed off, kind of thing. And I'm like, interesting, very interesting. So, and they do it in this in the period where the Mercedes Moné rumors that she's heading to New Japan are starting to take off, right? Just when everything is, just when people are starting to come to grips with the fact that, she is going to be there. So that was curious too. And then Britt Baker does her her pre-tape interview, which says I'm the boss, and she does the wink right into the camera. And then there's this stuff about, look, I don't follow Saraya that much on social media, and apparently she was saying something about putting 2 tickets to good use. The 2 tickets that Britt Baker gave us, she said, no, I put them to good use. So again, people got really, started putting stuff together, right? Look, and the thing is that AEW has done this before, right? Dropping hints, allowing people to create some headcanon and delivering on it. Like, this is something that AEW has done before. So I don't blame anyone who got into a position where they're like, well, clearly they're dropping hints, not unlike what they did with CM Punk. I argued last week, I think it was last week, right, that I thought the CM Punk hints, were a lot more ham-fisted than what they've been doing with Mercedes Moné so far. We'll see how things move, how things keep developing here. I don't think the story is done, but to come back to my initial point here, I think AEW did just enough to get people wondering, and because of how excellent AEW's track record has been up till this point in delivering surprises and dropping hints and then cashing in on them, I think it was natural that people got their hopes up, or were very, very interested, to say the very least. I saw the pattern. I wasn't 100% convinced, but I saw the pattern. I saw the elements, and look, I'm talking about them again today as testament to, maybe AEW fucked up a little bit on this one, right? Maybe they should have. Maybe they shouldn't have, teased a little bit. But I was here last week saying, look, they have time to pull an angle here, because there was the Hikaru Shida wild card here where, Shida could take out Toni Storm, right? If she was really mad, she could take out Toni Storm, on a rampage or on a social media angle. Like they still had a lot of openings to throw this one. To throw this to Mercedes and create the opportunity for her to come in and actually be Saraya's partner. So even I was still like on this moment, I was like, it's still possible. But, the thing that kept me cold on it and I had trouble reconciling was the fact that she was not announced. Because listen, I sincerely believe that if she was coming to AEW, if she was booked for the LA Forum show last night, AEW should have absolutely advertised her 100%. You don't keep her as a surprise, not in the context in which AEW is right now. Pack that house to the gills, sell out whatever tickets needs to be sold, and pop the rating. Pop the rating. Don't. AEW's in a bit of in a weird spot with its ratings. A bit of a slump. Maybe some ups and downs, very pronounced downs. A bit of a slump. Pop the rating. Show your bosses that when you come to renegotiate that you still have the connections and the understanding of the business to make this happen. Right? Renegotiations are coming up. Like, that's the only thing that didn't make sense to me. Like the idea of her coming in as a pure surprise was I think was not a good idea. I think it was ill-advised. And I think if they wanted to tease her the way they teased CM Punk, they would have gone a lot harder on it. Probably dropped more references to bosses and bank statements and money and, fire hair or whatnot, at this point. So, it still doesn't make sense to me that they would have kept this so under wraps. So that's the thing that was cooling me off quite a bit. But I don't blame anyone who got excited about it. I don't think the LA Forum audience was hostile. Again, I didn't hear any chants for Moné's name during the women's match or throughout the show. I didn't hear any of that, which would have set up maybe some speculation that a lot of people did buy tickets on the promise of this, which was the United Center thing, right? On the promise of CM Punk, the pure promise of CM Punk, United Center sells out. I don't think this was the same type of tactic. I think it was strange. There were clear hints, for sure. And I think AEW should have, and I'm here look, I'm about to say it. I think AEW should have done a lot more to clarify that she wasn't going to be there. But what would have been a good thing to say? What would have been, how do you clarify it more than than revealing the mystery partner and saying, look, it's not Mercedes, it's Toni Storm. How could you, outside of Tony Khan saying Mercedes Moné is not going to be there on Wednesday? Is that what he says? Is that how you do it? Because it feels kind of weird. Because then it opens up questions that maybe he doesn't want to tackle. Are you currently talking with Mercedes Moné? Are you trying to bring her in? If she's not coming in on Wednesday, when is she coming in? And maybe these are all things that he just didn't want to get into. Maybe for negotiation's sake, he couldn't mention it at all. We don't know. So how could AEW have reverse steam here? I don't know what the good solution could have been. I don't think Tony Khan coming out already and saying Mercedes Moné will not be there. I don't think that's necessarily the play. Because then that continues to be a part of the conversation. Now that the CEO's addressed it, the boss, the head booker, how does that impact the rest of the shows? Maybe he has her up his sleeve and he's going to deliver her at a later date. So maybe he just doesn't want to reveal that, and that's entirely possible. So if he speaks Mercedes Moné will not be there on Wednesday, what if he has her coming in a couple of weeks or at Revolution or whatever? Then what do you do then? You know what I mean? I don't even think that was the best, that would have been the best situation. I think the best situation that they could have done is just avoid any type of mystery speculation. I think that was the key element that started all of this thought process. Britt's boss comment compounded that. For some reason, Saraya saying on social media, talking on her Twitch stream, I think, in regards to ticket sales, or not ticket sales, but her airplane tickets given to two friends. Look, all little things that should have just been swept aside and no one talk about, kind of thing. I think that would have been the best possible outcome. But here we are. Anyway, let's get to it. AEW Dynamite review. It's the day after that I'm recording, of course, per usual. January 11, Los Angeles, California, the Kia Forum. Match to open the show straight out the gate, giving us one of... Look, first of all, look, what a show. What a show. And now that we've got the Mercedes stuff aside, which I think, I wanted to chime in here. I think my approach is nuanced. I don't think anyone is in the right. I don't think anyone is in the wrong here. But, but here's the thing. There was enough stuff on this show that had people scratching their chin going, that it overtakes the discourse for a wrestling show then. Mercedes Moné, the promos, MJF and Takeshita, all things I'm going to talk about. But what we ended up getting in as far as a wrestling show goes was probably the best bell-to-bell wrestling program on a Wednesday night on free TV that we've seen in a long time. And I feel like I keep saying this I've said this recently in another review just a couple of weeks ago, and here I am saying they just keep surpassing themselves. This was an excellent pro wrestling show where we had outstanding matches, top quality, top tier, world-class wrestling. And all I'm hearing about is bullshit. Laser focusing on the things that didn't work, on the 15% of things that didn't work on the show versus the 85% of the show, the meat, the pro wrestling, the matches, everything. Really fun to excellent matches. I don't know what's wrong with wrestling. I'm telling you, look, I'm believing it more and more. At one point, it was a bit. It was a meme, but I'm starting to believe it. No one hates wrestling more than wrestling fans. And I saw it again when we're talking about Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega. It's like, they're just jumping around too much, doing too much. That's like, we're the only, if you want to consider pro wrestling a sport to a, whatever degree, we're the only people who are going to say they're too athletic. And we're going to say as a negative. It's ridiculous. And this pisses me off because we had such a good wrestling show. And we're focusing on the minimal stuff. I don't get it. I really don't. Look, and the show starts off with Adam Page versus Jon Moxley. This is your curtain jerker. This is the one you decide to kick things off with. This is awesome. And you know what? The crowd was into it too. Another hot crowd. Another super hot crowd. The entire night, they were into this show from top to bottom. This isn't like, we're not, these aren't coincidences anymore. This isn't just like, popping into a territory and no. These can't be coincidences anymore. Wrestling fans love the wrestling. They get there, they're hot for it, and it's awesome. And this match just started out, blew me away to kick things off. Both Page and Moxley, they go right at it at the bell. They wait for the bell to ring. The pros, right? The professionals. But once that bell rings, they just go at it. Boots, chops. Moxley knocks Page down, and Page is slow to get up. Because the concussion, right? So Moxley, he dumps him down. He grabs him by the hair and drags him down to the mat. So he's a little slow to get back up, right? Because of those injuries. The head injuries. Superplexed by Jon Moxley and a German as well. And Adam Page, again, giving a little extra sell here because he's getting dumped on his neck. Well, okay. And another German on top of that. But Adam Page comes back with a suplex of his own. Moxley launches Adam Page off the apron into the barricade. Adam Page fights back, but the King Kong Lariat connects. Oh! Everyone's on the edge of their seats. Jon Moxley beats him up, and Page eventually nails him with the King Kong Lariat of his own. They slug at each other. Fall-away slam by Page. Orihara moonsault to the floor, of course, follows. Back in the ring, Page eats a Death Rider, but kicks out. Mox then moves in for the Bulldog Choke, a pile driver. Covers. Page kicks out at 1. A sleeper by Mox. A Deadeye by Adam Page as he reverses out of the sleeper. Mox gets up and Mox gets right back up after the Deadeye. Then he stomps Page and they're both down. Short arm headbutts by Jon Moxley. They slug it out. The crowd is so into this. Page lands a lariat and then goes for the buckshot lariat. Covers, pins Jon Moxley clean as a whistle. Fantastic match that was made even better because of the build to this tale. What a great wrestling match. What an absolutely great wrestling match. I'm sorry for anyone who didn't understand why Mox and Page didn't like each other. I'm sorry for all of it. Hopefully that was all cleared up, that you were able to enjoy it. I think that even outside of that, you're able to enjoy this match. This was great. And Adam Page pinning Jon Moxley, a rare television loss for Jon Moxley. These don't happen very often. It's very, very rarely. So, and clean, buttery smooth finish. I don't know what to tell you. They do an angle afterwards where Jon Moxley is getting checked on by the medical staff, right? And Adam Page is, he sort of walks away. He has a bit of a look of concern, but he still walks away. Mox is not knocked out. Are they doing a concussion thing? Look, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Getting your bell rung is something. You can get knocked out without getting concussed. I don't know. A lot of people going, it's bad taste to do a concussion angle. I don't know if it's a concussion angle. Let's see how this develops. But I do like the reversal here. And you know what that means? That means we're not done with this feud. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I am fine if these guys want to continue chomping at the bit to go after each other. And you know what? Maybe this is a way to just get Mox off TV for a couple of weeks. You know, that vacation that everyone says he was looking to get? This could be it. Here's the thing, right? And here's the thing. Everyone wanted a surprise. Everyone wanted a return, a debut. But we got our surprise because Adam Cole's music hits and he comes out for a surprise in-ring promo to an enormous reaction from the crowd. What a huge reaction he got. It's a good promo. And I think it's the best promo we got of the night. Talks about his concussion symptoms and how it affected him and how he thought, he didn't understand what was going on with him, and pretty scary stuff to go through all of that. And he appreciated all the support he got from fans, even though he wasn't around. He teases that he has bad news, but the bad news is for the locker room because he's back. He said there's still so much he wants to do in AEW. He's not going anywhere. He stopped short of talking about a world title shot. But you know that you felt that undercurrent That's what we want. That's what Adam Cole Bebe is looking for. Great promo, great surprise. It's good to see him back because, yeah, it is, there was a lot of concern. Look, Adam Cole is a beloved pro wrestler from the fans, but even from his peers. So there was a lot of concern as to whether or not his career would be taken from him because of these injuries. Glad he's back because I think he's a great pro wrestler. Why wouldn't you want him back? And a great reaction. I guess they're going to run babyface. Look, seeing the reaction here. Run him babyface for a while, right? The Acclaimed are backstage. They say they're going to be among some of the biggest names in show business on Rampage because the Hollywood Walk of Fame Board of Directors are going to give them their stars on the Walk of Fame. Okay. They name drop people like our boy Donald Trump and Johnny Depp and okay. They were being sarcastic, right? Because they're dropping these very controversial names who have stars on the Walk of Fame, which essentially is, from what I understand, is you just pay for it, right? The jury is one thing, but it's not people going around saying, "Oh, we should induct this person." It's like, no. Like you send money for your consideration, you say, and then they vote on it. It's not that. It's maybe for a while it was prestigious and it was like a committee vote, but now it's really like it's like the what was that? There was a seal of quality. I can't remember off the top of my head a few years ago that would be like on. There was a seal of quality that would be on certain products, on certain prepackaged foods, to say that it was healthy or whatever. I don't remember exactly the good health label or whatever, something to that effect. And then it was revealed that it's just marketing. Anyone who wanted it could just pay for it. It's basically, you're licensing out the logo to slap it on your product. Whatever. Then we had Jungle Hook defeating the Firm duo of Big Bill Morrissey and Lee Moriarty. I enjoyed this. I thought this was a lot of fun. Arm drags that end with a drop kick to begin with by Jungle Hook. They even do a double team throw drop kick combo. Stokely gets involved, of course. Jack Perry goes to dive on Stokely, but Big Bill is on the floor. He catches him. Hook saves Jack Perry from something terrible, but then that allows Lee Moriarty to tag in Big Bill, and that's where things don't go so well. Perry eats a big boot and a flying knee, a big boot by Big Bill, and a flying knee by Lee Moriarty. Heat segment follows. Perry powers out of an armbar with a power bomb. Hook gets the hot tag. Lariats in a Northern Lights suplex. They tease Hook suplexing Big Bill once again. He can't quite do it, but Jack Perry lands a missile drop kick, and that allows Hook to land the Northern Lights suplex. Jack Perry locks in the snare trap on Lee Moriarty for the win. This was fun. Fun. A fun, dynamic match with a pretty interesting combination as far as tag teams go. Very, very, very interesting combination. I think there's a lot of value in Jack Perry and Hook doing more stuff together. I don't know. It's just one of these pairings that works, right? Probably because they're two guys, two handsome dudes in their 20s, right? It's good stuff. Renee Paquette is backstage with Orange Cassidy and Danhausen, along with special guest Paul Walter Hauser, with a box, he says, containing his Golden Globe. Golden Globe. The Golden Globes trophy. The trophy from the Golden Globes. Which he won, by the way, for best performance by an actor in a supporting role in a limited series, anthology series, or TV movie. That's the category, I'm not making it up. In Blackbird, which was one of Ray Liotta's, if not Ray Liotta's last performance, if I'm not mistaken. Blackbird, which was on Apple Plus. In a way, on a streaming service that I do not have access to. They say, hey, can we see what's in the box? Can you show us the Golden Globes? He says, I promise I'll unveil them on Rampage on Friday. And he says he's a fan when he's talking to Orange Cassidy, and he's asking if the best friends are still okay. Trent and Chuck E walk in, and they sort of all haphazardly agree that, yeah, we're okay, we're fine. They sort of do the hand thing, and it's all not super clear. There's a little tension here, a little underlying, yeah, we're good. Yeah. I wouldn't say it was the best segment, but I find that in the recent strip of backstage segments with non-wrestlers involved, I thought this was probably one of the more successful ones, because I think Paul Walter Hauser, he seems to be a wrestling fan because he understood how to speak for a wrestling audience. Like, he understood the verbiage, the cadence. I think he gets it at the very least. If he's not a fan, he gets it. So I thought he did, I thought he did a good job. I think the whole thing, there was just a lot of elements coming together at once. The Golden Globes, kind of reminded me of when Vince McMahon came out with his egg, and then everyone started applauding. You remember that? Anyway. Still backstage after the commercial, Renee tells us that the last time there was a Game 7 in the LA Forum, it involved the Lakers in the NBA Finals. Apparently it was specifically speaking about the 1988 Lakers versus the Pistons series. The Detroit Pistons. This was probably around the time I was watching basketball. I don't remember. I have a terrible memory for that stuff. But I'm sure, for a lot of, and I don't, is that a cool reference for any NBA fans here? Does that make you cringe? Because what Game 7? We're all joking around calling the best of 7 series, Game 3, Game 5, Game 7. They're not games, and it's wrestling matches, and it's. Does that kind of make you cringe, NBA fans, or is this kind of a nice little callback? I don't know. I couldn't tell. I don't know. Konosuke Takeshita comes out. He has his entrance. He's getting ready for his match against Bryan Danielson. But then once he's in the ring, MJF's music hits instead. So he comes out and proceeds to insult Takeshita, making fun of the fact he's foreign, makes fun of his name. What does he say? He says, "Konnichiwa, bud." Talking down to him. Takeshita shouts back at him in Japanese, only to tell him shortly thereafter in English that he's going to kick his ass. There's a shove, and MJF demands that Aubrey kick Konosuke out of the ring, and then MJF cuts the rest of his promo. He starts going on about he starts talking about going an hour, referencing the Iron Man match that he's going to have with Bryan Danielson. He talks about going an hour, and if anyone has any doubts that he's able to go an hour, they should ask their mom, sister, or skank girlfriend how long he can go. He's all about pinning shoulders on mats and banging rats. He starts roasting celebrities in the audience, like Ken Young, who's there, and Freddie Prinze Jr. Calls Freddie Prinze Jr. a Scooby-Dooby douchebag. I laughed. And I like Freddie Prinze Jr. That's not the point. I thought Scooby Dooby Douchebag was kind of funny. He calls Danielson a nerd before he can finish the promo, though. Danielson's music hits, comes after MJF, but MJF hits the bricks. Like he's just dashing away as fast as he can. He takes a powder. He hits the road. Going off into that sunset as fast as possible. Now, here's another sticking point for people who don't like to anyway. Here's this promo here was a bit of a controversial one, wasn't it? Personally, I didn't think it was one of Max's best. I thought it lacked a little creativity. I thought he gave a little. Ammunition to people who say that he goes for low hanging fruit, and I think he's a better promo than this for sure. I can't disagree with the idea that there may be some casual racism being thrown in here, but I'm of two thoughts on this point here, right? I'm because look, on one hand, some of the commentary I'm seeing is that on one hand people are saying, well, isn't he a hypocrite? Because on one hand he talks about how racism and bigotry affected him as a Jewish kid, right? He's been over this a few times, and here he is doing it to Konosuke Takeshita. Isn't he a hypocrite? Yes, it's MJF. It's like I don't particularly care for the low key racism, the casual racism. I'm not. It's not a good look, whichever way you want to spin it. But if you're calling MJF a hypocrite for saying one thing one week and then saying another thing another week that contradicts the one thing that he said the week before, then that's right. He's a heel. Heels absolutely manipulate the truth all the time, or whatever they're saying to fit their narrative, whatever, regardless of what they said in the past. So, on that aspect, I'm like, sure, but that's what it is, right? And I do want to say, like, these are wrestlers, and when they're out there in the ring, they are working, they're performing, and sometimes I feel people don't realize when they're getting worked, so calling MJF a hypocrite for this is like, sure, that's what he is. Now, if you want to take issue with the racist undertones, I can get behind that a little more. I'm like, because I was like, oh, okay, you could do a little better than this, Max. Like, this is it's a little weird. But then at the same time, just a few minutes later, Takeshita gives him the what, where he's like, no, man, I'm speaking English. I understand everything you're saying. I'm not this foreign weirdo that doesn't speak the language, that comes in here and has to be, that has to be talked down to. Max thought that that's what he was doing here, but no. Takeshita flipped it right back around. And Max reacted accordingly in perfect heel fashion, so stomped his feet and looked at the audience as they were cheering. He got his comeuppance right there. So, evil heel does evil heel shit, but the babyface is like, no, fuck you, dude. I don't think it's as cut and dry as a lot of people are making it out to be, because there is storytelling and character elements here that do exist in AEW, and if you're judging this on these merits, I think there you go. I think there is merit to it. So I'm kind of a little all over the place, but these are workers. They're working. If there's one thing that I think the quote-unquote death of kayfabe has created is that for a lot of fans, it is impossible for them to separate the person from the performer, right? Which is entirely two different things. Even with MJF, despite the fact that his entire public persona is his character. Despite that, people still don't seem to understand that it's all a gag, it's all a thing. I'm going to tell you what offended me most out of all of this. And this is the thing that bothered me the most out of this promo is how Bush League it made Takeshita look. Because MJF just waltzes in, takes time from Takeshita's entrance, and he shoves it and then tells Aubrey, "You gotta get this guy out of here. I gotta talk." And he talks for 7 minutes? For a substantial amount of time afterward, the promo. So just tossing Takeshita aside, that I think is much more egregious in the wrestling context. Where it's like, okay, Takeshita got a shove in, but that was it. And then he was told to be expelled from the ring like he's Tony Nese. Which he clearly is not. He's not being established as a mid-card guy. There's big plans for Takeshita, you can tell. So that's the only thing that truly bothered me out of this section of the promo. Is like, okay, he looks like he's in the minor leagues. As for the rest of the promo, mom, slutty mothers, slutty sisters, skank girlfriends, banging rats. There's a lot of this going on in AEW for this, and I think that an occasional drop is can get that shock factor. Now it really does seem like low hanging fruit, and it's passe. It's old. You know what I mean? Like it's not creative. It all feels underwhelming. I'm like, come on, man. That's why when we get to Scooby Dooby Douchebag, I'm like, oh, this is funny. I don't think this was MJF's best work. But when we get into this match, though, with Bryan Danielson defeating Konosuke Takeshita, now we're getting some top tier work. I thought this match ruled. This was my match of the night in an evening of multiple match of the night candidates, but this was extraordinary. Pardon me. Romero special by Danielson to start off, right into the Dragon Sleeper. I love that. I love that so much. Because most of the time, a Romero special, people will do it, and then eventually, whoever's doing it will let go. But Danielson's like, no, I'm going to just release the arms and then cradle you back into a Dragon Sleeper. Takeshita strikes back. Takeshita, what did I say? What is wrong with me? Takeshita strikes back. I think I did a combination of Konosuke and Takeshita. Takeshita. Jesus, Warren. Takeshita strikes back. Chops by Danielson, who eggs him on. Like, come on, man. Give me your best shot. Flying lariat by Takeshita, who struggles out as well of the label lock. Running corner kicks by Danielson. But he goes for one. See, I did it again. Takeshita counters with the Blue Thunder Bomb. More chops between the two. Danielson's chest is bleeding because, of course, it's paper thin at this point. I think the level of epidermis, the layer of epidermis on Danielson's chest now is just it's paper thin. He dumps Takeshita to the floor and dives. Danielson kicks him while he's in a tree of woe as well. Takeshita lands an avalanche lariat, which rules. They do a disastrous hurricane, or what could have been a disastrous hurricane Rana spot. And at some point, I'm wondering if this wasn't planned, because, you know, they sort of topple on top of each other and Danielson sells his knee. But he looked okay. Everyone looked okay. So I'm sort of wondering. He's off the apron to the floor, and it was just, it wasn't well executed. Thankfully, no one got hurt, but it looked like it could have been a lot worse. And then Takeshita hits a brain buster right on the floor. He does the middle rope senton atomico as well, but Danielson lifts the knees, gets the label lock in. Takeshita gets out of it, kicks, and strikes between the two. We get some good old-fashioned Japanese fighting spirit happening in the ring. Takeshita knocks Danielson's head off. He lifts him up. Danielson goes for a victory roll counter, but he, being Takeshita, blocks it with a Hitodenashi driver. Or a cradle belly-to-belly pile driver, I guess you'd call it. He covers. Danielson kicks out of it. Danielson hits the Busaiku knee. Covers. Takeshita kicks out. But Danielson kicks his fucking head in. Locks in the Regal stretch for the win. Again, another win with the Regal stretch. Great match. Danielson shakes hands with Takeshita at the end. This was fantastic. Renee Paquette is backstage with rock hard Juice Robinson. He says he's no thumb twiddler. So he calls out Darby Allin for a TNT title match on Rampage. There you go. Good old rock hard. Then the tag team match happens. Dr. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter defeat Saraya and Toni Storm. This was a fun match. Was given a good amount of time, went through a commercial. Strong style by Toni Storm early on Jamie Hayter. Hip attack on the outside. Rolling cannonball by Saraya off the apron to the floor. Saraya then delivers some knees. Jamie Hayter fights back, doing the double suplex on both Saraya and Storm. Britt Baker lands an assisted neck breaker on the floor. Meanwhile, Saraya eats a barricade by Jamie Hayter. Everyone's on the floor. And then Shida comes out. She's got a kendo stick in hand. That'll come into play shortly. Butterfly suplex by Britt Baker. And the heels get their heat segment until Saraya comes in and lands some short arm clotheslines. Lands the nightcap. Air raid crash by Britt Baker is avoided. And a hip attack by Toni Storm follows, as well as a DDT. She locks in a cloverleaf on Britt Baker, but Jamie Hayter runs in and boots Toni Storm right in the mush with her foot. Britt Baker lands an avalanche air raid crash. Seemed a little wobbly, but they got it. It maybe wasn't the greatest looking, but it was safe. Hayter hits the backbreaker thing. German suplex and Storm Zero by Toni Storm. Britt Baker does what do you call this? Like a butterfly X Factor? I've never seen Britt do this, I don't think. That was pretty cool. I think that's a fun move. Storm and Hayter trade shots. Meanwhile, Hikaru Shida tosses the kendo stick into the ring. You would assume so that Toni Storm could use it, but Britt uses it instead. Which, while the referee is distracted, of course, and that allows Jamie Hayter to land a Hayterade for the win. And Shida is doing one of these and saying, "What have I done?" So they're continuing this angle here where Shida, in the trio of Saraya, Toni Storm, and Shida's clearly the odd woman out. That works. And you see, might be another reason why this Mercedes stuff had no place to be in the first place, right? Because this angle worked out fine. Fun match. I thought the women worked really hard. Everyone worked hard in this match. I thought it was pretty good. There was a point I felt like that they were losing steam, but picked up towards the end. I enjoyed it. We get a pre-tape of Eddie Kingston and Ortiz bickering with each other regarding their match against the Kings of the Black Throne upcoming. And the Jericho Appreciation Society come out en masse. Everyone is there. They're all wearing matching jackets. They do the shtick with the tearaway pants, but they're all wearing the same pants under it, which I thought was funny. It's my kind of comedy. They cut their promo. They reference being at PWG for some pretty good reactions from the crowd. So that, there's continuing your crossover right there. Then Ricky Starks and Action Andretti come out. Andretti's burns seems to be healing up quite nicely. They jab at the Jericho Appreciation Society. And Action Andretti then does, talks about control your wife and where she puts her hands, whatever. I know he was referencing her Tay Mello's low blow last week. That's what he's talking about. She had her hands all over my stuff. But again, there's a lot of this, right? I'm a little exhausted on it. Like, again, because I don't think it's super creative, and I don't think is it good heat? I don't know. And Action Andretti he's of course, fresh out the gate, right? He's getting this spot here. We don't know much about him, but he's one note when it comes to his promos. He's it's nothing to write home about. He's not great. And I think it's especially glaring when you position him. I did enjoy the line where Daniel Garcia says, I remember, when I was young like you, so on and so forth. And Andretti's actually a year older than him. I thought that's funny. Anyway, this all leads to Starks challenging Hager to a match. I didn't think this was a particularly good promo segment. Despite lots of great elements, I thought it was a little all over the place. I thought the content was questionable. I get that, I understand why they did this because, I saw a lot of commentary again where it's like, this could have been a pre-tape. They could have done this backstage and it would have been shorter and would have been better. But you want to bring Ricky Starks out in front of the crowd, and it's a live crowd, Los Angeles, a hot crowd on top of that. You want to bring him out. You're building him as a top guy. This is what you want to do. You want to put him on TV. You want to put him in front of the live crowds to get the live reactions. So I understand. Maybe this promo wasn't the best. This whole segment was a little off. All the promos outside of Adam Cole tonight felt they were off. And find some new material for Action Andretti. Don't let him talk as much when he's around two of the best promo guys in the company, being Ricky Starks and Chris Jericho. That's not going to be his strength. He's going to look like a geek every time. Like, for real. I'd be wary about that if I was them, but I am not them. Anyway, the main event, AEW World Trios title, Game 7, Escalera de la Muerte. The Elite reclaimed their Trios titles by defeating Death Triangle. Got the ladders, everything. We got the belts hanging up high. You only have to take one belt off to get the win. Backstabbers to start by folks. They all trade moves, including an X Factor by Nick, a frog splash by Phoenix. Shenanigans on the floor with a ladder. There's a destroyer by Matt Jackson in the ring. Springboard armbar gets Matt off the ladder as well. And here's the thing early on, and I've mentioned this multiple times. I am spent on ladder matches. If I don't see a ladder match for the next 18 months, I'd be satisfied. So, I'm not going in here the most excited, but when they start off the match and you have the participants running up the ladder instead of going, they're going all the way up, and they have to act fast to get them off. Their opponents have to act fast. I love that. I wish there was more of that. That at least I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, this is getting me into it. Rey Fenix goes up the ladder as well. Kenny Omega drags him off and lands a Snapdragon suplex as well. Rise of the Terminator is attempted, but it's interrupted by Pac with a missile drop kick. Kenny eventually does land the Rise of the Terminator, but he goes right through a table. Unprotected, with no one on top of it. Meanwhile, Nick Jackson dives onto Pac through a table on the floor. Lucha Brothers launch Nick into a ladder. Later on, Nick lands a corkscrew dive to the floor. Matt Jackson back body drops Penta on a ladder. Rey Fenix head scissors Nick off of the top rope onto a ladder in a great spot. Pac reverses a one-winged angel attempt by Kenny Omega into a poison Rana. Fear Factor by Lucha Brothers. Tornillo by Rey Fenix. Super Kick Party by the Young Bucks. Locomotion Northern Lights suplexes by Matt and right onto a ladder. Nick Jackson 450 splashes on Penta through a table on the floor. Abrahantes gets involved. He pushes Matt Jackson off the ladder, but he gets cold sprayed by Brandon Cutler and eats a Kenny Omega V-trigger. Pac has the hammer, that bell hammer, and he crushes Kenny Omega's hands as Kenny is scaling the ladder. Pac then Falcon arrows Kenny Omega on the floor. It's either a Falcon arrow. It kind of looked like a Michinoku driver too. I'm not quite sure. Penta goes after Matt on the ladder and Fear Factors on on a platform ladder that they've set up. Kenny Omega lands the one-winged angel off the platform ladder on Rey Fenix again. Pac goes for the black arrow, but Kenny gets his knees up and he climbs the ladder to retrieve a belt. Victory for Kenny Omega, who, by the way, came out with the IWGP United States Championship. So the New Japan AEW relationship is still very good. Don't let anyone fool you. Don't let anyone say the opposite. It is still very good. And this was a very good match. I enjoyed it a great deal. I thought it was, it was what it was. For the entire series, all these matches have been nuts, been crazy. I still prefer, I think my favorite match was the Falls Count Anywhere one. I think that's still the one that, and maybe they're the second one, like the first one they did after Full Gear. I think that one ruled. Those are probably my two favorite of the series, but a very fun series. I got people into it, got people talking. It's the most predictable outcome, but sometimes it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And I think the journey was very well booked. I thought it was fun. You remember when Kenny Omega returned last year and the word on the street was that, he's washed now, too many injuries, he won't be able to perform on the level that he knew. And I talked about it myself. I'm not going to exclude myself from that speculation. It's like, look, we may not get the Kenny Omega we once knew. He may be the severity of his injuries may keep him from doing all the great shit that he's been known to do. But we got worked. Whoever was spreading that, whoever was assuming that, was a complete fabrication. Kenny Omega is wrestling just like Kenny Omega should. I don't see any. I don't see him putting in half steps. I don't see any less effort. I don't see anything less compelling / dangerous than what he's done in the past. I don't see anything different. This is the same Kenny Omega. And that's what makes it all the more crazy. That this guy was riddled with injuries, had to rehab, get himself back into shape, and he's fine now. Between this match and the Ospreay match at Wrestle Kingdom, anyone who thought that this guy was washed, he was going to be done, been proving you wrong. That was AEW Dynamite, and it was a good one. It was a very, 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 very strong show. Again, with another hot crowd. This is going to pay off at some point. Ratings-wise, I mean. This kind of hype can't keep the lid on this too long. Great stuff. And and I'm gonna wrap up the review on that note as well. We're gonna cash in or cash out, whatever it is at this point that we're doing. But I want to thank you all for listening, for watching. If you haven't already, give a like on the video. Consider a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating on Spotify. I will be back next Thursday for another Dynamite review, and in the meantime on Tuesday for another MrWarrenHayes show. So whenever I decide to see you, whenever you decide to see me, we'll see you there. See you next time.